Welcome back to another explainer, everyone. Today we're cracking open an absolutely fascinating chapter from ancient lore. We're looking at section 35 of the Astika Parva, which is a really crucial segment within the colossal epic framework of the Adi Parva. Now, if you're someone who appreciates massive leaps in scale and the actual nuts and bolts of world building, you're going to absolutely love what we're unpacking today. We're zooming in on a very specific conversation that just suddenly explodes into this crazy cosmic sense of scale. So grab your notebooks, get comfortable, and prepare for a masterclass in ancient storytelling. Okay, let's dive right into this. We are dropped squarely into the middle of an ancient, ongoing demand for mythological lore. The speaker here is Saunaka, and he's basically representing the ultimate captive audience. He's listening to the storyteller, Sutta, who you'll often hear referred to as Sauni, and he's literally demanding more details. This isn't just passive listening, right? It's an interactive, demanding process. Saunaka is essentially saying, hey, don't skip the details, we want to know exactly who the major players are. It perfectly sets the stage for the massive list of serpents we're about to uncover.
But before we get to that list, let's quickly retrace the epic events Saunaka and Sauti have already covered leading up to this exact moment. It really shows how incredibly organized the oral storytelling tradition is. Saunaka systematically recaps what Sauti has delivered so far: the reason the snakes were cursed by their mother, why Vinata was cursed by her son, the bestowal of boons by their husband on both Kadru and Vinata, and finally the names of Vinata's sons. It's like a mental checklist. He's proving he's been paying close attention, setting up a solid foundation for his next big request.
But here's the thing. Despite all that deeply intricate lore we just went through, there is a glaring omission. Saunaka points out a gap in the narrative matrix. Sauti has provided the names of Vinata's sons, sure, but he hasn't yet recited the names of the snakes, the sons of Kadru. For an audience as meticulous as Saunaka, an unbalanced ledger of lore is just unacceptable. He desperately wants this gap filled to get the complete picture. It's a fantastic reminder of how structured these ancient listeners expected their mythologies to be. Every single branch of the family tree needed to be accounted for. And honestly, you have to appreciate the deeply human, relatable element that happens next. Sauti, this legendary ancient epic storyteller, essentially says, look, I know you want the names, but I'm really afraid of talking for too long. I mean, even thousands of years ago, presenters were terrified of losing their audience's attention. So he strikes a compromise. He flat out refuses to name absolutely every single snake, but he agrees to recite the names of the chief ones, the absolute principal serpents of this universe. It's a perfect little moment of meta-storytelling. Now, what's really interesting here is the explicit hierarchy established right at the starting line. Before Sauti launches into the massive rapid-fire list, he specifically isolates the very first two serpents born. First is Sesha, then comes Vasuki. By breaking these two out from the rest of the pack, Sauti is immediately signaling to Saunaka and to us that while there are many chief serpents, Sesha and Vasuki hold unparalleled foundational importance in the hierarchy of this mythological universe. Definitely keep those two names in the back of your mind. And now the floodgates open. We're going to bombard you with the names of these chief serpents, just as Sauti would have rhythmically bombarded his listeners. Imagine the cadence of an ancient bard reciting this first wave from memory, fast and barely pausing for a breath. Airavata, Takshaka, Karkotaka, Dhananjaya, Kalakayeya, the serpent Mani, Purana, Pinjaraka, Ilapatra, Vamana, Nila, Anila, Kamasha, Savala, Aryaka. It's literally a cascading wave of terminology, a true testament to the staggering power of oral tradition and memory. Let's see how this builds, because the list doesn't stop. He simply catches a breath and pushes right into the second wave. Ugra, Kalasapotaka, Suramukha, Dadimukha, Vimalapendaka, Apsartha, Karkotaka, Shranka, Valasakha, Nistanaka, Hemaguha, Nahusha, Pingala, Vayakarna, Hastapada. Keeping the energy high and the pace quick here is crucial, because we really need to emphasize the sheer volume of names Sauti is producing on demand. Every single one of these represents a principal mythological entity. The rhythm is relentless now, practically poetic as we wash over the third wave. Majjagurapendaka, Kamvala Aswatara, Kalyaka, Vrita, Samvartaka, Padma, Mahapadma, Sankamukha, Kushmandaka, Shemaka, Pindaraka, Karavira, Pushpadanstraka, Vilwaka, Vilwapandara.
Just think about the immense world building happening here. Sauti isn't just vaguely saying, oh, there were many snakes. He's validating their existence by specifically naming them, giving each one a distinct, undeniable identity within the epic's canon. We push into the fourth wave, and the intensity in Sauti's delivery would be absolutely peaking right about now. I mean, this is an incredible feat of memory. Mushikada Sankasiras Purnabhapadra, Hydraka, Aparajita, Jayotika, Srivaha, Koryavya, Drisarashtra, Sankapinda, Viraja, Suvahu, Silipinda, Prabhakara, Hastapinda. To an ancient listener, this relentless cataloging is a display of ultimate authority. Sauti is proving, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that he holds the complete, unadulterated knowledge of the cosmos right there in his mind. And this brilliantly illustrates the staggering scale we're dealing with as we hit this final wave of names: Pitharaka, Sumuksha, Kunapashana, Kuthara, Kunjara, Kumuda, Kumudaksha, Titri, Halaka, Kardama, Vahumulaka, Karkara, Akarkara, Kundodara, and Mahodara. Wow. Now, I want you to remember something absolutely critical about this massive list we just went through, this exhausting catalog. These are just the chiefs. This represents only the absolute highest tier of the serpent hierarchy. Okay, let's slow the pace completely down for a second. Because after successfully recalling dozens upon dozens of complex names, Sauti abruptly hits the brakes. He says, "From fear of being tedious, I do not give names of the rest." It is such a brilliant, funny moment of meta-commentary. Sauti knows his audience. He knows he's satisfied Saunaka's demand for the principal names, but he also knows that if he drops down into the middle management of the serpent world, he's going to bore his listeners to tears. It's a profoundly relatable moment of self-awareness. But Sauti isn't actually finished making his point about scale. We're zooming out now, way out. He tells Saunaka to reflect upon the fact that every single one of those chief snakes we just listed has sons, and all of those sons have grandsons. We are moving from a linear list into an exponential, compounding family tree of serpentine descendants. The scope of the world is suddenly expanding way faster than the human mind can even track. So the crucial point is this. Sauti explicitly states that in this world, the number of snakes absolutely baffles calculation. There are thousands and millions of them. The storyteller is forcing his audience to look up at a mathematical awe that they just cannot comprehend. That detailed list of names, that was just a microscopic pinprick of light. The true reality is an ocean of descendants so vast that even a master storyteller simply refuses to calculate it. Which really leaves us with this final lingering question. If just the absolute top-tier chief serpents require an exhausting, multi-wave list to document and their descendants baffle all calculation, can we ever truly comprehend the staggering cosmic scale of the Adiparva? It challenges us to realize that the lore we read is only the very tip of an impossibly deep iceberg. These ancient storytellers weren't just reciting facts. They were building entire, infinitely expanding universes in the minds of their listeners. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into Section 35. Keep chewing on that unimaginable scale, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.